Today's top stories at NBR. The country's largest telco is pushing for more diversity in its makeup. An intermediary property buyer stung with a $175,000 bill. Household net worth and spending are on a tear, but savings are down. And there's more coming right up. Kia ora and welcome to NBR Today, a wrap of the day's top business stories from the authority in New Zealand business news since 1970, nbr.co.nz. It's Thursday, July 22nd. I'm Paul Brennan. Thanks for joining us. A damning Financial Markets Authority report has called out the attitude of fire and general insurers towards conduct and culture, with just 2 of the 42 companies meeting its expectations. And thousands of customers will now receive refunds after being overcharged. Shortcomings identified by the FMA's report released today include a failure of most insurers to actively monitor product suitability, as well as the overcharging of customers and not providing promised multi-policy discounts. Joining the NBR's Hamish McNicol was FMA Director of Banking and Insurance, Claire Bollingford.
So what we haven't seen is systemic misconduct of the nature that we did see in Australia when the Royal Commission reported. But instead what we've seen are weaknesses in controls, which have led to some customers missing out. And what that means in practice is that they haven't received discounts that they were promised, or indeed there is a small number of customers that were overcharged premiums, or may not have products that were suitable for their needs at the time.
FMA Director of Banking and Insurance, Claire Bollingford, with Hamish McNicol. The country's largest telco is pushing for more diversity in its makeup. While it believes it's made great inroads to creating a gender balance, it wants to include more Māori and Pacifica people. Spark Chief Executive Jolie Hodson told NBR the evidence is clear that greater diversity of personnel does build greater diversity of thought and subsequent improvement in outcomes for the business. Spark is part of Champions for Change, a group dedicated to accelerating inclusive and diverse leadership in workplaces. Joining the NBR's Hayden Green was Spark CEO Jolie Hodson.
That isn't something you fix in one day or 1 year or 2 years, but it's a commitment to being different and empowering our people to be part of that change. And that's really the journey we started to go on the back of that review and listening to what we heard, but also sharing it publicly what we heard. We shared it with our people and we shared it externally. And it was pretty much a groundswell of action as a result of that.
Spark CEO Jolie Hodson with Hayden Green there. Meridian Energy and Contact Energy are calling for parties to express an interest in developing the world's largest green hydrogen plant in Southland. An export facility could also immediately add as much as $800 million to New Zealand's gross domestic product, according to a report commissioned from global management consultant McKinsey & Co. In an NZX note, the listed generator retailers said potential big consumers, producers and service providers of green hydrogen were invited to register their interest in the Southern Green Hydrogen Project over the next 2 months. Contact Energy Chief Executive Mike Fudge said green hydro production could solve up to 40% of New Zealand's perennial dry year problem, in which not enough rain and snow melt replenishes hydro storage run hard during winter to meet the uptake in demand. An intermediary property buyer has been stung with a $175,000 bill for failing to seek approval for purchasing an asset in the first case of its kind. In a prosecution brought by the Overseas Investment Office, Auckland High Court Justice Sarah Katz ordered Cleveland Kawakawa Road Limited to pay a $160,000 penalty and $15,000 in costs for the purchase it made on behalf of an overseas investor. In February 2013, foreign businessman Zhorong Mai agreed to purchase 2 adjoining properties totalling just over 87 hectares in Clevedon. The land was categorised as sensitive land, as it is non-urban land exceeding 5 hectares, and one of the properties adjoined the foreshore. Household net worth and spending are on a tear, but savings are down, according to new national accounts data released today by Stats NZ. Rising asset prices, including property, meant household net worth rose by $118 billion, or 5.5% in the March quarter of this year, to $2.3 trillion, and by $402 billion over the past 12 months, almost matching the growth over the whole of the past 4 years. Rental properties and owner-occupied property together contributed 54% of the annual increase. Spending by households rose by 6.1% in the March quarter, having been kept in check for much of 2020 by COVID-related restrictions. Conversely, savings took a dive to their lowest level in 2 years, coming off their second record high of just under $7 billion in the lockdown quarter of June 2020 to $0.2 billion. Cattle Genetics Cooperative Livestock Improvement Corporation has announced a marginally reduced dividend to its shareholders after reporting flat underlying earnings for the year to May 31st. Chair Murray King said the result is in line with their market guidance and a credit to shareholders for their support of significant initiatives in the last 5 years to transform LIC into a modern progressive co-op. The co-op will pay a dividend for the year of $17.8 million on August 20, down from $18.1 million a year earlier. Underlying earnings for the year were $22.3 million, down slightly from the previous year's $22.7 million. The full details of those stories and more are at nbr.co.nz right now. Tomorrow at NBR, in Hunter's Corner this week, Tim Hunter slates an academic report criticising returns from community trust investments, while in the Share of the Week we look at why NZME's share price has shot up. I'm Paul Brennan. I look forward to being with you again tomorrow around lunchtime for the morning's NBR trending stories, then same time, same place, right here from 5:30 tomorrow for another NBR Today.